Hey everyone, it's Rob Foglia and Jessica Klein here with Foglia Properties at Keller Williams in Nashville, and we're coming to you live today to basically talk about why waiting to buy a home could cost you thousands of dollars. And Jessica, I was telling Jessica right before the call here, right before our video, that the main reason that I wanted to do this was I've heard that a few times recently from people that it's like, I'll just kind of wait till the end of the year, almost like a very lackadaisical response to buying a home, which don't get me wrong, like there are some reasons to wait. Like maybe you got to work on your credit or you're saving for a down payment, and like that stuff makes sense. Trust me, I get that. And at the same time, like there are others that they're renting, they're like month to month, and they're thinking, well, I'll get around to it in the fall. I'm busy right now. Like what's everybody's favorite thing to like? What was our old one of my old bold coaches, Dusty, used to be like, I'm busy. You know, like that was
Mhm.
what I guess I'm hearing that somewhat, and basically we want to just come to you with some real information today that can show you how being too quote unquote busy right now could cost you thousands in interest. And so, are we ready to jump in, Jessica?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, even just looking at this graph we're looking at, it is a really unique time for buyers. And, I know the inventory is a little bit low and maybe it'll take a little bit more looking to find something you really like. However, like you said, waiting could be a much, I don't know, it could put you in a position that's not as advantageous as today.
Well, exactly, and we're going to walk through some real numbers with a couple of different home prices to really get this point across. And basically, because as you can see here, I mean, interest rates are really at like a historic low. I don't know if I've ever seen them. I don't think I've ever seen them this low. And
Yeah.
I know I've had lenders tell me the same thing. And even just looking back here, going back 5 years, they've never been this low in the last 5 years. And I'm sure if we went back, the max time, it would, well, here, let's just do it just since I'm
Yeah.
saying it. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
max time.
Still.
It's never been that low. And so the reason why, though, that it's important to note that, I guess it's just, there's not even a reason why it's important to note. It just is important to note that rates fluctuate pretty quickly, and there are economic factors that kind of go above my head that play into interest rates. And so I don't want to get into how to predict rates because no one can. I don't think
Right.
anybody out there is going to be able to tell you. Even the best lenders that are out there aren't going to be able to say, "Oh yeah, rates are going to do this tomorrow." They just don't know. And you can even see that here with all the constant spikes, the ups and downs. These aren't just people playing around with mortgage interest rates. There are economic factors that are going into it that are outside of the housing market.
Right. Now, the only thing I'll say is there's not really much lower that you can get, right? We're we're
Yeah,
within 3% of zero.
yeah,
So it's,
exactly.
this is about as low as we could ever really expect them to be.
Exactly. And so let's dive in and look at a couple of examples as to basically how this affects affordability. And so here, I don't even need this article. Let's go with this
Yeah.
and let's jump into. We actually have a mortgage calculator on our website. So if you go to foliaproperties.com, so like if you're interested and you're like, I just want to play around with the numbers, and
Mhm.
because we're going to walk through this one right here that I've got pulled up. And then, Jessica's going to propose a number as well. So if somebody has one, if you're watching live on Facebook and you've got a number you want us to walk through, like when I say a number, a housing, a
Sale
home number.
price or yeah, or
Yeah,
even an
like
interest rate or whatever.
yeah, we can mess around with that and change it around. However, if you're watching this later on, you're seeing us on YouTube, go to our website, foliaproperties.com. Click on the top right, this little bar up here, and you go to mortgage calculator, and it'll bring up this screen for you. So what I've got pulled up here though is $425,000 for a home price. And there's a reason I pulled this one up, and I was telling Jessica right before the call that I recently had a buyer's consultation with a wonderful young couple buying their first home, and originally they were thinking like, yeah, we'll stick around between 300,000 and 400,000, and then the famous line that almost every buyer will say at some point. But if the right home comes around,
Yep.
I'll go to like this price, and
They'll
just because.
see.
And
Yeah.
every buyer is.
Yeah.
I mean, because every buyer thinks to themselves, well, this is the budget I'd like to keep within. And then if it's the perfect dream home, I'll go a little bit above it. I could stretch, I could flex into this little higher price. And so, the price that they threw out there, because they even saw a home online that they wanted me to pull up, and we did, and it was right at around this $425,000 price point. And so I think this is a solid number to be talking about. It's a great budget here in Nashville. I mean, we can find homes less expensive as well. However, it's you can find a wonderful home at $425,000 in Nashville and the surrounding area. So let's just walk through what this looks like, because at 425, and I just put 5% down. Obviously, the final payment, which y'all can see on the screen here, the final payment's going to be impacted by this as well as a lot of factors. So this is just an example.
Mhm.
And yet, with 5% down on a home, this is what your loan amount looks like. And with a 3% interest rate, I just put in $200 a month for property taxes and $1,000 a year for homeowners insurance. And please note, I do not include PMI on here because we're not lenders. I can't tell you what your PMI is going to be. If you're putting less than 20% down, you're going to have something. So there's going to be something in here. But depending on your loan and your credit score, it's not going to be it's likely not going to be an astronomical number, put it that way.
Also, just if anyone is not familiar with any of this lingo, PMI is mortgage insurance. And
Yes.
for certain loan types, that's just a number. It's included as part of your payment for a while until there's evidence of your successful payment for long enough.
Exactly. And you actually can buy it out on the front end as well. Just something to consider. But I don't want to get into any of that. We're going to keep that zero. And we're actually going to keep all the rest of these numbers the same for this comparison. So you can see the real change is with interest rates. So that way, if you're watching this, you want to see how things change, how much interest rates affect things. So anyway, long story short, just like we were looking here, I mean, rates are basically 3% here in the last 2 weeks, 2.98, 3.01. I'm just going to call it 3 for easy math. And these are numbers, where am I? Straight from stlouisfed.org. So this is where I'm coming from. I'm getting it from. And so at 3%, you can see at this price, you're at a little under $2,000 a month. And
Yep.
so, again, a lot of times, as a home buyer, and, Jessica, you may even be able to speak with this. A lot of times, the home buyers will think that, hey, I've got a monthly budget, and then they maybe just check out some random mortgage calculator, and they think, well, that's my price range that I can afford, and they don't really take into consideration things like interest rates. Is that fair to
Right.
say?
Oh, absolutely. And, before you really get into the process, or if you don't work in the real estate industry, you don't think all that much about how much an interest rate is going to impact your monthly payment.
Mhm.
Like you've said before, I think a lot of people, they choose a house based on the price, and they don't think about, or they're not aware of how to get a good calculator to figure out what the monthly rate's going to be. Because in the end, that's what matters.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's well said, because ultimately most people don't care, when all said and done, what this price was, or really what this is. They care about this. They care about what they're paying every single month,
Yeah.
because it goes into their monthly budget. So again, for our example here, you're at basically a little under $2,000 a month. Now, I'm not going to change anything else other than interest rate, because that's what we're talking about today. You can see that at a 4.5% rate, and I didn't just make up a number. If we go back here, 4.5%. If this was about 2 years ago, here you go. End of July of 2018, 4.54%. So in 2 years, they've dropped a percent and a half, and you can even see between what's fine July of 17, it went up a good 0.5%, and if not a little bit more, and rates can go up and down pretty quickly. Anyway, though, I
Yeah.
don't want to digress. At 4.5%, nothing else changing. 4.5%, you're at 23.29. That's about
Yeah.
a $350 a month difference.
Yeah. And that's that's a pretty nice car payment, right? Like, or, saving that every month can make a huge dent in a lot of your other life goals. And so it's really important to pay attention to these interest rates, or at least have a good lender contact who can keep you up to date on, what these rates are currently and what that means for your payments.
Well, exactly, and that's why, like the title of this video says, why waiting can cost you thousands. I mean, just imagine if you're one of those people I was referencing at the beginning. Hey, I'm just going to wait a little while. I'm busy. I got life's happening. The COVID-19 and everything. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait until December or January, or maybe next summer, even whatever the case is. If that's the case, and rates did say jump up to 4.5%, this was your budget, everything else was the same. $350 a month times 12 months. What is that? About $4,000 a year, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. And now imagine that, $4,000 a year every year for the life of the loan. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money.
And a lot of people, I mean, I know you just gave an example of why people talk about waiting until the end of the year. I hear a lot of the time people say, well, I'm going to wait until prices go down. And we've just seen here, I mean, say that and maybe we can even play around with them on this calculator. If you buy a house right now that's 425 and it's at a 3% interest rate, then we have that, what was it, $1,400 a month. Now, if you wait till the end of the year, and let's assume prices do go down, say 415, and then the interest rate goes up to 4.5.
Well, 415 and 4.5%.
Yeah.
You're still at, I mean, well, here, I'm sorry, the down payment changed. There we go. So you're at 2,280, and where was I before?
Right.
2,350. So a $10,000 a month less, a $10,000 home price. It equates to about a $55 a month difference in terms of payment, which is not gonna, for most people, gonna break the bank.
Right.
And if we wanted to play around with it, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be somewhere around 380 maybe. 380 with 5% down. I mean, we're getting closer to $2,100.
So, yeah, prices would have to drop quite a bit. And while interest rates can be they move and change very quickly, home values thankfully they don't change that dramatically in that amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they tend not to, especially downward. I mean, a lot of times in our market, well, I mean, real estate, like we've talked about in our videos before, it's very supply and demand based, and we're in short supply and high demand. So even if things do slow down a little bit, I doubt we're ever going to see something like this in terms of going from 425 to 370 for the same home, at least not anytime soon. And if it does happen, I mean, I'd be shocked, put it that way. I think if things do slow down a little bit, if anything, it's just evening out, not appreciating as quickly as it would. So again, just something to consider, because for basically the same price, I think we were at about 2080, 2085 before at 425 and 3% interest rate. You have to be down to 370 at a 4.5% rate. So just something for all the home buyers that are out there to think about, to keep your budget the same. All of a sudden now you're looking at a home that's 10, 15% less at a higher interest rate. And so just kind of food for thought. Let's do a different number though, because for some people, I know, some first time home buyers, this may be too high of a price. Let's throw a different number in here, Jessica. Is there anything on Facebook, and if not, give me a number and we'll play around with it.
I don't think, we don't have anything on Facebook. I would say, I mean, one of our most common price points and one of the most competitive price points is right about 200. I think, just on one side or the other of 200.
All right. Well, yeah, let's go to like 250, because 200 is getting real hard to find, period, right now. I went to 2.5 million.
2.5 million, yeah. That's our most popular price point.
Yes. So 250, 5% down, 3% rate. I didn't change anything else. Your taxes probably would even be a little bit lower. Still,
yeah, probably around 1,000, depending on the county.
Yeah, depending on the county. Yeah, Davidson County, probably closer to 15 to 1,800. Still low. Beside the point. I'm just going to leave it all the same.
Okay.
250, 3% for an interest rate. You're putting 5% down as a down payment. Your payment's a little shy of 1,300. About 1,285. Now again, let's just keep everything the same and jump to 4.5. All of a sudden, you're at almost 1,500, 1,486. So your payment just jumped $200 a month, which I know is a smaller gap compared to the last one, and yet for somebody who is looking at that budget, that's probably about the same percentage. It's going to impact their budget the same. And so I just think it's important to be thinking about these things, because again, if this were the if this was the real life example, that at the end of the year somebody went from buying a $250,000 home at a 3% rate to $250,000 home at a 4.5% rate, that's $200 more a month. That's $2,400 more a year. I mean, that's, once you live in that home for a few years, that's tens of thousands of dollars that,
Yep.
just like you said before, Jessica, that could go to pay down other debt, pay down your car debt, pay down if somebody has student loans or credit card debt or anything else, or putting it toward the future, maybe buying investment properties,
Yep.
or you're just, putting it in your retirement account, whatever it is that your goals look like. That's money that could go somewhere else instead of just going to the bank in interest, because that's basically all this is.
Yeah,
Nothing else
same
has changed.
property, right?
Exactly. Same
Yeah.
property, same price. It's just
Mhm.
more money to the bank in interest. And so we're in kind of a phenomenal time right now when it comes to this. I mean, this is like we talked about before, and I won't even go back the max. Let's just go back 10 years. I mean, you can see they've never been this low. Even here, where people were like salivating. Like I had clients and people talking about how like oh, I got my home refinanced because. For those that don't know my whole story, I got into real estate right around here, the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. So I wasn't around with this when this happened, the end of 12 and into 13. And I've had clients tell me, oh, yeah, I refied and I got a 3.35% rate or whatever the number may be. And now, I mean, if somebody refied and they had a 3.5%, or if they say they did it in March of 13 and they have a 3.6, it may make sense for them to refi again because they could drop by more than a 0.5% and be paying less money to the bank. And so just something to consider because
Absolutely.
we've never seen them this low, and it's interest is just money that's you're giving the bank. That's it.
I am curious, and I don't know, this is purely out of curiosity.
Okay.
What's the highest rate that we have on this chart, on this
On
graph?
this chart, we'd have to go back a ways because I mean, right here we're at a little more than 5% on the where was this, beginning of 2011. If we went back like to the max, I mean, gosh, that's what, 1981.
Yeah.
You're talking about
Ooh.
18%. Now
Yeah. What does
that's
18% look like on that on
well,
the
I don't think that's.
calculator?
I'd be shocked if that ever happened again. In fact, like you hear some of the I don't want to disrespect anybody, the old timers though, the people like Gary Keller
Gary
who is
Keller's, yeah.
founder of our company who have been in real estate for 40 years. They tell stories about how crazy the market was back then in terms of just that, because this made it such a strong buyer's market because there were so few buyers who would actually buy at a rate like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if we wanted to be real about where rates could go and in kind of a rough way, I could see it somewhere in this range, I should say, like kind of pre-recession, that's 6 to 7%.
Right.
And the reason I say that is there were some, here, let's just go back to a little bit of a more recent view. I remember hearing lenders say around here when they started to jump up to to the low fours, that they thought by the end of 17, maybe even the end of 18, that we could be looking at rates that were getting back into like 5 to 6 to 7%, because these are historic lows and they don't make the
Right.
bank, they don't make the investor the type of money that they would love to see. Like the
Mhm.
bank, as much as I don't want to say it, they want to see this. They want to see that type of return on their money. They don't want to see this. They don't want to see
Yeah.
3% return. And so, that anyway, that was kind of the rumor back 3 4 years ago that rates were going to take a hike like that again. So just to use the same example, Jessica, let's just say rates were 7%, which I don't think they'll ever be that high again. Hopefully they won't, knock on wood, but say they are. At a $250,000 home, 5% down, you're looking at an almost $1,900 a month payment. And remember, that was a $425,000 home basically, or
Yeah.
basically a $400,000 home at 3%. So just throwing that out there. Here, let's just do that real quick.
Yeah, the interest rate really that's the main factor in all of this. That's my takeaway every time I come and use this mortgage calculator. you know Adding mortgage insurance and changing the property tax and the down payment and all this stuff, I mean, you get minor changes there. When you change the interest rate, it blows it out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. And remember that example we just gave, 250,000, 7% rate, which would be insanely high. I mean, we're not
Yeah.
seeing that right now, and yet that was an 1,800, almost $1,900 payment. here we go, 400,000, 5% down, 3% rate. You're looking at 18, almost $1,900 a month. So
Yeah.
just something to consider. And just like you were saying, Jessica, just to give the example in terms of how that stuff impacts things, property taxes. I know that's been a hot topic in Nashville recently in terms of our taxes have gone up a little bit. Just say they, 2,400 to, I mean, what do they go up? 34%. So I mean,
Yeah.
2,400 to, let's say 3,200. That's about
Yeah, that's 30.
there you go. I mean, it went up $70 a month. So it's not like that's making or breaking most people's budgets. I know it doesn't
Right.
help, and yet it's not the end of the world. Whereas if this goes from 3 to 6%, that's going to change things. Change things
Yeah,
dramatically.
that'll be a very different picture.
Yeah. So as always, y'all, if y'all have any questions, reach out to us. I should have said it earlier, and I meant to, that if, really the important thing that I think every buyer needs to do if they're thinking about buying a home in this year, next year, whenever it is, to not only reach out to us, talk to a lender, a trusted lender. If you don't have one, I've got people that I can recommend. I've got local people that are phenomenal, that'll give you great advice. They're willing to have a conversation with you, even if you're not going to get a loan tomorrow, because they want to be here to help, and be here to help you 6 months from now or a year from now. Because ultimately they'll be able to start to give you some of these variables, and they won't be variables for you anymore, like the PMI, like what an interest rate could look like for your for whatever your credit is, because those things are going to change a little bit depending on each borrower, depending on each buyer. And so it's so important to start that conversation, even if you're thinking it's 6 months from now or a year from now. Start that conversation so we can begin to put the picture in place, because you never know, you may start getting that picture, maybe become I guess the best way to put it, maybe becoming clearer. And you may then say, well, hey, while rates are low, let's do something. Let's do it now, because I think it's based on this, it's a phenomenal time to be a buyer. Despite the low inventory, I mean, this is ridiculously low, and
Yeah,
take advantage of it. I mean, we're not going to see that forever.
absolutely. I'm with you.
So, awesome. Well, if y'all need anything, reach out to us. We're here to help. You can give me a call, 615-591-5665. You can text me as well. Email us, info@foliaproperties.com. You can PM us here on Facebook. You can hit us up on YouTube as well if you're seeing this on YouTube. We'd love to be a resource, help you out any way that we can. Just like that lender I was saying a second ago, even if you're 6 months or a year away from buying a home or doing anything, we're here to help. So, give us a call and reach out, and we'll get y'all taken care of.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in. See you.
Bye.